What's up, everyone? Coach Tony here. In this training, we're going to review how to write all of your college essays. It was a very first time meeting. My name is Coach Tony. I'll be your guide and host for this training session here today. My background actually was a former UC Berkeley admissions reader. That meant when students applied to Berkeley, I was one of the people who read the applications and recommended yes and no to a lot of students. Ever since then, I worked at UCLA as a director. I opened my own high school, and we've been for the last 16 years helping students with the entire college admissions process, not just to the UCs, but all of the top privates and out-of-state colleges as well. This past year, for example, a bunch of our kids got into the Ivies, the MITs, the Caltechs, the Stanfords, the USCs, in addition to the UC schools and other state schools as well. So in this training, we're going to break down exactly how to write all of the various essays that you are going to be required to write to for your college applications, right? We are going live here, and this call is being recorded. For those who are here live, if you want to go ahead and share what grade you're in right now, so I can kind of see if I can cater this call to the live crowd here. What grades? Just drop a number in the chat. If you are a senior, drop a 12. If you're 11th grade, drop a 11th. 10, 9. If you're a middle school family, 6, 7, 8. If you're a community college student, you can drop a double C, CC there, so we know kind of where you all are at. And if you are joining us live, let me go ahead and give you access to my notes that I'm going to write here today. College essays. For those who usually join at the top of the hour, we go ahead and give you access to my notes. And for everyone else who's watching the replay, it's somewhere on this page. If you're watching the replay, somewhere on this page, you can probably find it as well too. Okay. So people are flowing in. I mean, his link is working. Let me go ahead and share my screen and let's get started. This could be a very fun, jam-packed train. So I want to not waste as much time as we can. So jump straight in. I think people are in here as well. Really quick, just confirming you guys can see the doc that we are typing on. Let me know if the font is good. If the font is too small, too big. It's never too big. It's always like too small as well. So let me know if that is good. Boom. We can get started. Fantastic. Thank you, everyone, for chatting with me in the chat and also looking at the grades. We have a good mix today. We actually have I think the most juniors in this call. Currently, we have some 9th, some 10th. We have some seniors as well, but a lot of 9th, 10th, and like a lot of 11th is the big group as well. So thank you, everyone, for joining in. So for a lot of you guys, this is like looking a little bit ahead, right? It's like previewing what my child should be doing next year. Some of you guys in a few years, and for some of our senior families, it's kind of making sure, are we on the right track, right? Are we doing the right track with all of this? So let's go ahead and jump straight in. Let's first talk a little bit of theory. We always like to start with a little bit of theory so you guys can understand where this fits along the entire college admissions process itself. So when it comes to the college admissions process, right? College admissions process, there's kind of three areas that it kind of breaks up into. There's the academics, there's the activities, and there's the application itself. As you can imagine, today's session is the application itself that we're going to be talking a lot about. So this is something that you're going to do in senior year. So this is something you do in senior year. You shouldn't start this any earlier than senior year itself. There are probably other things that are probably worth your time more to invest in, aka these first two areas. If you're doing a little earlier, but this is something you do in senior year itself. Okay. So when you're applying to these colleges, keep in mind that there are multiple applications that you can use to submit. Right? Is number one. So first off, those who are here live, you guys know I love the live interaction. So if you're in the chat, let me know. Is anyone here interested in applying first to the UC schools, right? Again, I mentioned I was a reader at Berkeley, worked as a director at UCLA. Who here is thinking about applying to a UC school in the future? Let me know in the chat. And again, I see the hearts coming through. I see the thumbs ups coming through. I like the chats. Just drop in the chat so I can see it. I love it when it just flows, when it flows like crazy. I love that as well. There you go. The flow is coming. The flow is coming, right? People say yes. So keeping in mind, the UCs use something called a UC application. Very intuitive, very intuitive there. right? The next batch of schools, because a lot of you guys are applying to the UC schools, you're probably also located in the state of California, right? Because you guys are located in the state of California, we have two state schools. We're big, pretty big that we have two state schools. We have the UC system and we also have the Cal State system. Is anyone thinking about applying to the Cal State system as well, too? There's 9 UCs, 23 Cal States out there. The Cal States, for example, Cal State Long Beach, Cal State Fullerton, Cal State East Bay, San Jose State, Sac State, San Diego State, Cal Poly Pomona, Cal Poly SLO, right? These are the Cal State schools, 23 Cal States. Awesome people are applying there as well, too. Another app that we'll talk about today is going to be the Common Application. So the Common Application is an application that I think over 1,000 schools use. These are a lot of the private schools use this. A lot of the state schools use this as well too. Anyone know? Anyone think about applying to a private school? Usually, a lot of private schools will fall under this bucket as well. So you're thinking of, I know Stanford uses the Common Application. USC uses the Common Application. The Ivies, by the way, uses the Common Application. There, yes, but like people saying yes in the chat. Love it, right? And the fourth type of school that we're going to talk about today is school specific applications, right? So there are schools, there are some state schools, there are some private schools that have their own application itself. They're like, this application, right? There's two schools in particular that have their own app that they don't take anyone else's apps because some schools give you a choice, right? Use our app or use like the Common App, for example. That's the most common comparison. There are like two schools that I can think of that's pretty well known that is their way or the highway. The two schools being MIT and Georgetown. These two schools have their own unique application that you can't use the Common App to apply for. They have their own kind of application that you go through for them. Okay, so we'll talk about these four today. There are a few other ones out there just for you guys to know. There's one called the Coalition application as well too. Is very similar to the Common Applications, a few different essay questions too, but again very similar. We tend to recommend the Common Application over the Coalition just because more schools are housed under the Common Application, right? So a really good like general tip when it comes to which app should I use is which application covers more of your your schools that you're applying to. So if all your schools take the Common App, go for that. If all your schools take the Coalition app, go for that as well too. There's no right or wrong application. If the school allows you to do Common App or their app, again, no right or wrong, and there's no heavy preference towards one or the other. Use the one that gives you less work is kind of our big recommendation here, right? Do the one that recommends less work for you. That's going to be the key. So for a lot of our families that we work with, UCs, Cal States, Common App, school specific are the big ones that we see every year. So we're going to go ahead and break those down here today. Okay. So let's talk about first, let's start with the Cal State application, right? Again, today's topic is how to write the type of college essay. Really quick, one more time. Is anyone applying to the Cal State schools? Again, SLO, Pomona, Long Beach, Sac State, San Jose State, San Francisco State. A lot of people say yes. All right, you guys ready to write the essays? There are none. There are none. Right? You're done. Right? That's pretty much it. Congrats. We are done with the Cal States. Cal States do not have any essays. They do have an application component to it. You just fill in your is just the personal information and the academics, and that's it, right? So that's pretty much what it is for the Cal State application. So the actual writing process, the essays, start with the other ones, not these schools. So let's go ahead and start first with the UC application first, right? So the UC application is used to apply to all 9 UC schools, right? So it's used to apply to all 9 UCs. Right? Keep in mind, there is a 10th one. The 10th one is UC San Francisco. You cannot apply as an undergraduate here, right? So this is only for grad school. So those of you guys who go to like med school, right? UCSF is one of those top med schools out there. they do med school or like graduate programs. They don't do undergraduate, right? So usually there's one application for all schools. So you're not going to customize your app for each school. You're not going to be like, oh, I want to say certain things for UCLA, say certain things for UCI. No, it's one app you use for all the schools there. Okay. That's the big one. So the parts that make this up, the components of this, there's going to be personal information where they're going to ask you information about yourself, your family, income for like fee waivers and residency questions. Then they'll ask you for the academics. You both share both high school and college, right? So those of you guys who did dual enrollment, you can share the college in this area too. And then next area is going to be activities, right? So you have up to 20 slots to share your activities. Order does not matter on this one. You can put them any order you want. The categories do not matter. There are 6 slots, 6 categories of activities you can put it under. Again, does not matter which one you pick, just in order does not matter. You're up to 20 slots here. And then actually, if you want to actually fully break it out, actually, I missed one. There's going to be a college section, right? College and majors, where you select which of the UCs you're applying for, which of the majors you're applying. If you're applying to San Diego, they also ask you to rank their colleges because San Diego's a little different. They have you rank colleges there. With that same thing, no, not same thing. The colleges you pick as your housing, right, doesn't affect admissions itself. It's just kind of personal preference on there. Boom, 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 boom. Then there's gonna be a scholarship section. This one also doesn't do much for admissions. This is more for like related programs that they think you might enjoy is all. And then the last section is the personal insight questions, right? And there's also additional comments at the end, right? But that's basically the sections here. Keep in mind, there's also additional comments right here as well too. Okay. But where we're going to focus on right here is going to be the personal insight question. Think of these as the AKA the UC essays is kind of the best way you want to think of it. Okay. So when it comes to the personal insight questions, you're going to have there's 8 topics or questions to 8 questions to choose from, right? You get to pick 4 of your choice, 350 words maximum for each one. Okay, so that's basically it. There's gonna be 8 prompts. I have the prompts over here with me, so you guys can, which you guys can see what the questions are. As I'm doing this, again, if you guys have questions, go ahead and drop it in the Q&A box in the Zoom. Drop in the Q&A box. We'll go ahead and answer it at the end of today. Okay. So there's 8 PIQ questions. Oh, oops. And we'll go through it really quick so you guys know exactly what they're asking you. What skill? Every person. There you go. So these are the 8 questions that they'll ask you. Number 1 is going to be describe example of your leadership experience and in which you have positively influenced others, help resolve disputes, or contributed group efforts over time. A tip here, the word is or. Don't talk about all 3. Just pick one of these 3 to talk about. Second one, every person's creative side can be expressed many ways. Problem solving, original, innovative thinking, and artistically describe how you express your creative side. A tip here, define your creative side and why you think it's creative is a big thing here as well too. Next one, what's your greatest talent or skill? How you developed and demonstrated? This is a 3-part question. 1 is identifying your talent skill. 2, talk about how you developed it. Part 3, talking about how you demonstrate. That should be the structure of that prompt here. Next one, describe how you is taking advantage of a significant opportunity or work to overcome an educational barrier you have faced. Keyword, there are 2 prompts in this one. You pick one or the other. Either talk about a education opportunity or talk about the educational barrier, not both. Next one, describe the most significant challenge you face, steps you have taken to overcome, how it's affecting your academic achievement. Again, 3 parts to this one. Challenge is part 1. Part 2 is steps to overcome. 3 is your academics. Even if it doesn't affect it, you got to acknowledge it in some way. Number 6, describe academic subject that inspires you. Describe how you further inside and or outside the classroom. Pro tip for this one, do the word and. So there's a 3-part question again. subject, further this inside, further this outside. So three-parter in your prompts. Next one is what have you done to make your school or community a better place? Again, identify one, the word or, a school or community. The secret question they're asking you here, what's wrong with your current school or community for you to want to make it a better place, right? Last one, beyond what has been shared in your app, what makes you a strong candidate for admissions to the University of California? This is basically asking you, why are you special? And you share that. Pro tips. Number one, avoid number eight, right? A lot of people think they are uber special. Parents, you guys think your kids are special, which I'm sure they are. All right. But number eight, typically what I see, I work super duper hard. I never give up. I have so much tenacity, all these different things. How many other students can say the exact same story as you? So the analogy, if you want to think about, if you're going to do number eight, and I have recommended number eight to, I think, like 5 students total over the last 16 years, me seeing like hundreds and thousands of students over a time. I've only said less than 5 kids. I know 4, I can think of like 3 right now, right? And that's it, right? So the thing is, these students have such a unique story that I'm like, holy moly. I'm pretty sure out of a million students, you're the only one who can say, this is my story, right? And that's kind of the level of the number eight. So again, tip, avoid number eight, choose from the other 7 is like kind of my tip number 1, right? Tip number 2, answer every part of the question, right? That is the first thing readers are trained to look for, is answering the question. Again, spoilers for everything. That's what we're looking for. The first thing, did you answer the question? So when you just go in a big topic, I don't learn much. I want to answer every part of the question there. You notice that I acknowledge some of these have multiple parts. So you make sure you address the multiple parts of all the questions. The big key here, right, is personal, insight, question. There are 3 words that make this up, right? Personal. What does personal means? Personal means you as in the students, right? This means I only care about the student. I do not care, respectfully, about their friends, their classes, the parents, the family, their dog, their goldfish, anyone else that the students try to talk about. I, as a reader, am not looking at all them. I'm only looking about the student. So a little pro tip for you guys, try to keep the words I, me, or my, right, in every single sentence of your PIQs. Why you do that is it forces you to talk about yourself only, right, compared to anyone else. So that's the big one here. Next piece is the word insight, right? Insight is in your head, right? In your head. Again, meaning this is not what I can see. In school, they tell you show, not tell. In the PIQs, I want you to tell, not show, right? Doesn't mean you don't show at all. You show enough, but the focus should be about the insight, right? Why? Basically, you're answering the 2 questions of why and how. Why did you do that thing? How has that thing made you who you are today? I do not care about the story. Specifically, I tell students, right? And you can check out on your own prompts, 30% story plus 70% insight. That's kind of a good ratio to kind of keep it at, right? So if you read a prompt and that sentence, oh, I can see what the student did. That's a story. That's a story as well too. But again, if I told you I kicked the soccer ball, that's something you see, right? That's a what. If I told you I grew up an only child, instead, okay, you can see that too. I am very shy, right? You can't see that, but you understand that about me, right? So I think that's the 2 examples. You want, again, disproportionately more insight than the story itself. And the last one is a question. What's a question? That means if I ask you a question, do you tell me an answer back? If I tell you guys, hey, tell me what grade you are at, no one gave me a 5-paragraph essay. You guys told me 12, 11, 9. I said, tell me this answer. You wrote yes. You wrote no. You told me a little context to each one. When you are asked a question, you respond with a response, right? And that's the big key here. We are not writing an essay, meaning a pro tip, again, also a tip, right? I tell students, no hooks, No intro paragraphs, no conclusion paragraphs, right? These don't tell me who or why you are doing what you're doing. This only shows me how good of a writer you are. Those are extra wasted words, right? Another pro tip as well too. Think of this, treat this as a verbal, as a written interview. So if you show up to an interview and someone asks you a question and you're answering the question, if you write it down literally, that's the type of response readers are looking for. But if you write it again, try to make it sound pretty and try to put anecdotes and quotes and all these rhetorical questions, you wouldn't go to an interview and ask them a question. You just answer their question. So the best way is treat it as a written interview. How would you respond back to them and just write it on paper, right? So that's gonna be the big key when it comes to here. So again, how do we actually go about this, right? I gave you the questions earlier, but I shouldn't have done that because now you guys are thinking, oh, I want to do the leadership prompt, I want to do the creative prompt and this, that. Ideally, you don't want to start there because again, do not, or I'm to avoid starting at the questions. Most families, most students do. And I think it's a recipe for disaster, right? Because now you're stuck. Now you're thinking, oh, what leadership thing can I talk about? And you start thinking about all the leadership things. Then your child will get stuck and I don't know what else to write. I only have 100 words right now, right? Because they're trying to force an answer into a slot. Don't do that. The right recommendation that we recommend for you guys is pick the topic first, then tell me the story, then tell me the insight, then you identify the question. What does that mean? So the first thing is topic, right? When it comes to topic, you want to ask yourself, what made me me? Right? So we did a lot of things. Everything your student has done, every class they've done, every activity, experience. Typically, these are activities, experiences, identities, right? Every activity, experience, identity that they have has made them who they are today. If I took away a core experience, I took away a core activity, I took away a core identity of who they will be a different person altogether. So what we want to do is we want to identify these. What are the top four, right? We want to identify four of these, right? What are four things? What's four things? We'll do a fun one in the chat. So in the chat as well, right? What's one thing your child you would say without this, they wouldn't be who they are today? Right? I'll give you some examples you guys can start thinking about as you can write it in the chat. Any activities that kind of made them who they are today. Could be a sport. It could be a certain competition they did. It may be a club that they started or they helped grow. It might be an activity like ASB, like a class activity, right? That's big as well too. Could be an experience. What if every summer you guys as a family travel to a certain area and do something, right? That's a core experience. Maybe something happened at home, right? During ninth grade that made them kind of who they are and identity, right? Who they identify as a person. I think all those there, and people are chatting, love it, love it, love it, right? You pick these. These are your starting point. You identify four of these. Then once you have the four, right? There's a story to each one, right? What that means is that, let's say, for example, a student told me Coach Tony's soccer is a big reason of who I am today, right? I'm like, awesome. In your head as humans, we think of everything in stories. So what's that one story that you thought of? Because you said soccer, I bet you there's a story there. Either really good, really bad, or really something, right? There's probably a story that made you think about soccer for not the most, don't ignore the most impressive thing. It might be it, but what's that one story that like you said soccer because you were thinking something in your head? What's that story? The student will tell me a story. So you will have a topic, then you have a story, right? So topic one, story one, topic two, story two. That's basically what we do, right? We have each topic will have a related story to it, right? That's it. So now each of your topics has a different story. The key here, by the way, when going back to topics going fast, none of the topics should overlap. None, right? Meaning, if topic one you pick math tutoring, number two shouldn't be math. Not can't be, it can't be math, but it shouldn't be math. You try to make all of them four different topics, right? Which means your story will also force itself to be four different stories, you're not going to overlap either with this because you're picking different topics, right? Then once the student tells me, oh yeah, soccer, I remember this game I did, cool. Then from each one, we're going to identify the insights, right, of each one. We're going to figure out, student, why did you do that? How has that made you who you are today? Right? That's gonna be the key there. If you guys want to see a live example, a few weeks ago, me and Coach Art, our head of coaching, we did a live example, right? Because Coach Art mentioned here my 4 topics. He told me a bunch of stories. I told him, like, tell me more about this one. Like, why is that so important? And then you find out a lot of information about Coach Art that's not even related to the story. And that's how you know the insight is good, right? If the insight is on the right track, right? The track, it's usually not even related to the story at that point, right? Because again, the insight is something altogether differently than that, right? Like for example, the story of the soccer, right? One of the stories we had was a student played soccer, and then we asked them, cool, tell me a story about, like, oh, it was like them playing on a team and then scoring the winning goal. It was a big moment for them. I'm like, cool. Why? Why was that so big for you? And we kept poking at it. And then the insight was that being part of soccer let the student be part of a team. And I was like, what's important about being part of a team? They're like, there's people who can depend on me and I can depend on others. I'm like, oh, why is that important to you? This student grew up as an only child. They didn't have brothers or sisters, older or younger, to hang out with. So soccer gave them that sense of like a family away from home, someone they can count on as their brothers, right? Older and younger brothers, because they never had that growing up. You see how now to talk about family, talk about dependent, talk about relying on others versus soccer is soccer. How many other people are talking about soccer, right? Soccer is whatever. We're focusing on the student now, which is the insight part. Now, after you figure out, now we find the question that helps us that helps us identify the story, right? The question that helps identify the prompt that we will write about. So now let's say, for example, I said, hey, we want to talk the soccer about you as an only child. Now going back, which of these lets you talk about that? Maybe it's like leadership, number one. Maybe it's greatest talent or skill. Maybe it is a significant challenge for them. That's it, right? And they're like, cool, then which of these? And then they match it out to figure out what's the one that they're gonna talk about. But they're gonna make sure to include the fact that, again, the reason why soccer is so important to them is because of the camaraderie and the relying on others rather than just the soccer itself, right? So again, that's the big key for these prompts here. Okay, and that's how you know these prompts are going to be super solid, right? So that's going to be the big one. So in terms of the writing process itself, the writing process for these, right? The first step, right? Stage one, I would say stage one is, I call it word vomiting. Word vomiting, which means just get your thoughts down on paper, right? Just talk out loud. The best tip I have for here is use a voice recorder, right? Your phones have it. Just record your voice. Just talk out loud the answers. Transcribe that. That becomes your first draft. Answer all the questions. Tell me the stories. Explain the insight for me. So just have it out there first. Ideally, at this point, you will have over the word limit, right? You should have over the word limit at this point too. Okay, that's gonna be the big thing here, right? After you have stage one, then stage two, which is checking, right? Checking for a few things. Number one, I want to check, did you answer the questions, right? Because that is one of the big things that research trained to look for. Number one, did you answer the questions? Once you have answered the questions, the second thing is, what do I learn about you? This is the insights, 70% insights, right? This is the insights part, right, of the thing. Then the next piece is, do you have the ratio almost down? Meaning you have the 30-70 ratio, 30% story, 70% insights, right? Because a lot of people focus too much on the other parts. Then after that, sentence by sentence, right? What does each sentence tell me about you, because sometimes students like to throw in random sentences that like relates to nothing. So take those out. Waste of words, right? Is the biggest one. You can see we're getting closer and closer and closer. And last step is the word count, because now that everything is good to go, how can we get down to the 350 words? Keep in mind, tip, it is always easier to keep cutting than to keep adding. So at the very beginning, we tell students go crazy. Some of our students at the very beginning, they have like 500, 600 words on the 350 because they want to overwrite, because we're going to cut down very easily, right? A lot of it's my story. We can cut out really, really quick too, right? That's going to be the big thing here, right? Something that I will share before we talk about the activities, sorry, about the next app, is that do not theme your prompts. I just had a conversation with a parent earlier today about the exact thing as well too. They were fighting me. I gotta theme it together. I'm like, no, you do not need to theme it together. Ideally, you want each prompt to sound like a different person, right? Like if I read each one individually without knowing it's the same person, wow, that's an awesome student. 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 But when I read them together, when I read them together, I'm like, wow, super student, right? That's kind of the mentality that you want to have on your essays and prompts, is that they're all different ones that are kind of contributing to who you are as a person. Okay. That's going to be for the PIQs. Moving on. Next one. Now we're going to the common application. Really quick pause real fast. Was that useful? So far, is that useful? Go ahead and drop a yes in the chat if that has been useful for you guys so far. We're going to move on to the common application next. All right. Dropping capital yeses. I love it. Capitals make me happy. Maybe you have to yelling in my face. I love yelling in the face as well. Moving on to the common application, right? Again, common application, 1,000+ schools use this. Again, a lot of the privates, a lot of the Ivies use. So I know a lot of you guys are probably aiming for a lot of these schools. A lot of out of states too. They use, again, UCs are kind of special. They have their own application. A lot of other state schools do use the common app as their main app, or they let you use their state app or the common app. Again, if they allow you to use common app, I recommend using common app. One less app to work with is the thing. Could you apply one per school, one per thing? Sure, you're doing more work. I don't know why you're doing more work. There's no advantage in using their app unless they're the only ones, right? We'll talk about that in a little bit, right? So when it comes to the common application, very, very similar structure, right? So in terms of the structure of the application itself, you're going to go ahead and add your personal information, your academics information, your activities. The difference here, by the way, you have 10 activities that you categorize them as well too. But order does matter, right? So again, big difference here. There's only 10 activities. Order does matter. You want to rank it from the most important to you, most important, most impactful, aka most hours that you spent on them, to least, right? Is a thing as well too. If you have more, right? Tip, if you have more, share this in the additional comments at the bottom. Okay. And then they're going to have, and that's pretty much it for the main, there'll be essay writing. They call it the writing section as well. Okay. So again, the Common App, what are their prompts for this year? Has not changed. And again, these schools are kind of slow. They're probably not going to change. So if you're a junior right now, I'm pretty sure these will be your same ones that you're going to be applying for next year as well too. Again, same thing with 10th and 11th grade. I don't think they'll change. They're very slow at change. They haven't changed one in decades, I would say. Right. So these are the 7 that the Common App uses. Number 1, some students have a background, identity, interest, talent so meaningful they think their app will be incomplete without it. If it sounds like you, share your story. Number 2, lessons we take from obstacles we encounter can be fundamental to later success. Recount a time when you face a challenge, setback, or failure. How did it affect you, and what did you learn from the experience? Again, you pick one, and there's a part 1, part 2, part 3. Next one, reflect on a time you questioned a belief or challenged a question or challenged a belief or idea. What prompted your thinking? What was the outcome? Again, the idea, What prompted it? What was the outcome? Three parts. You can see that there's different sections now, right? Reflect on something that made has something. Reflect on something that someone has done for you that has made you happy or thankful in a surprising way. How has the gratitude affected or motivated you? Discuss an accomplishment, event, or realization that sparked a period of personal growth. New understand yourself or others. This one right here, and then describe a concept you find so engaging, you lose track of all time. Why does it captivate you? What or who do you turn to when you want to learn more? Number 7, share an essay, a topic of your choice. It could be one you've written, respond to different prompts, or one of your own design. Very similar to the UC's. Avoid number 7, right? Avoid the 7. It's too hard. It's too hard to get right. It's one of those like you're gambling on you being a little different to stand out, but who knows if that's the right move or not, right? So again, avoid 7. You can see the Common App is pretty broad. All their questions, they kind of give the or to, again, you're going to have a lot of options here. However, guess what, guys? Use the same logic as the UCs, meaning don't look, AKA, don't look at the questions first. I told you it's Men in Black. Psh, we should have pew. Forget our memory, right? We're gonna go straight to the topic first. Guess what? We do literally the same thing, right? Inside then question. This is literally the exact same model as the UCs because it's the exact same thing that colleges are looking for at every single school. It's not just a UC thing, it's a college thing, right? So again, you identify the topic, but it's not 4 topics now. It's pick one topic that defines you above all of them. Then with that one topic, there's a one story, one topic, one story. Then with that story, right? Break it down. Oops. Break it down into your insights about why is that again. This is the one thing. Why is that so big for you? And then once you have that, once you understand the story, the topic, the story, the insight, now then identify the question that allows you to talk about all of these above, right? That's the trick when it comes to here. However, here's a little pro tip for you. I know we have a lot of younger students who are not seniors yet, so it's something you guys are planning for in the future, right? So what I recommend you guys do, and it's something we do with our own students, we have pretty much, again, unless you're applying to no UCs, but I know a lot of our families are. So the strategy here, right? Strategy is if you are applying to UCs plus Common App in any way, right? Then start with UCs first, right? Then do Common App, right? Even if you do early and regular, do UC first. Why? Because again, what you're doing is you're identifying 4 top topics for you. Guess what this topic is? This topic is. We're not making up a 5th one, right? One of your Common App topic is one of these. People are doing a lot of extra work that they don't need to, right? So from your 4 things that you said are the 4 most important, one of these is the most important. So, and if you don't know, filter, right? From these 4, what can I kind of throw away? And it still makes me. Sure, I'll be a little different, but no, the top 3 are still me. Cool. From these 3, let me get rid of this 3rd one because again, yes, is a big part of me, but these 2 matter more. From these 2, and here's a trick now, right? So you have 4, then you go down to 3, then your final options could be 1 or 2. Sometimes your top 2 are kind of related that you're able to merge it into a mega prompt and talk about both in like a very good hybrid of the 2 there. Or nope, from these 2, one of them are the most important. So you pick those there, right? So that's kind of the 1 plus 2. I'll do that to make it more clear, right? So you pick one of the 2 prompts, or you merge the top 2 together because again, these are really, really close, and or they're close enough. Not again, should be exactly close because then those should be different prompts, but it's close enough that we could probably tie those together. As a result, that's gonna be the structure here. Okay, the difference now, right? Step 1, word vomit. Do everything out loud. Step number 2 is gonna be the same thing with a little twist though, right? A little twist whereas step 2 is checking, right? Again, step 2, checking. Did you answer the questions? Still do that. Want to learn about you? Still do that. Ratio, still 30-70 though. The difference now is that we have six. Oh, I forgot to mention this earlier, right? With the Common App, you get 650 words versus the Common App is only 350 for four. This one is one for 650, right? So going back here, right, you're gonna go ahead and because 650, 30% of this is like almost 200-ish words, right? 250-ish, right? And the other half is like 400-ish, right? That's kind of the magical ratio of the breakdown. You still want more insight. It's not about the story. A lot of students focus so much on telling me the story of what's going on. It's not the story, it is the why. Why is more important than the what. Okay. Then go, sense, going to count. This one, the intro can be there, but it's not like a hook though. It's not a traditional hook or intro or even conclusion, right? It's not a traditional one. You don't have to like ask a rhetorical question and do all this stuff as well too. Again, the way we explain it to our students is it should make the reader want to continue reading as a next until you get into the meat of what you want to talk about. But it's not so setupy like a lot of like college, like high school essays or later on college essays. Those are you got to set it up to like hype the reader up to get them to read. They're gonna read no matter what. It's just I just want to keep reading to see what's going on as well too. Typically, that's what the extra words in the story will allow you to do. It'll allow you to share a little more. Just a little caveat on both of them and all of them as well too. Conclusions, right? You don't really need a conclusion, right? A lot of people like, oh, in summary, A, B, and C. You don't need that because I already know that. You can't say in the future I'm gonna X. You can do that, but a lot of it's very cheesy, and I can already tell what based on what you have already shared already too. So you need to add either new context to the reader or something that's like, I did not expect that, right? So one of those other things too. That's the big thing you want to share, right? So keeping that in mind, we always tell students like keep it. If you need the word count, get rid of it if you're over. That's kind of our big gist when it comes to here, right? That's that. There's also a second part of the common application. There are these supplements that come with the application itself. So these are school specific, right? These are school specific, right? So this is also, I'm also going to tie in the school specific apps because this is where it fits in really nicely as well too, right? So again, going back, right, we have the Common App, boom, Common App, we got that. We got the UC app, we got that Cal State app, we're done with that as well too. There are some schools that have their own specific app. You can also think of it almost like a supplement of the Common App itself, right? So basically what is, and you guys have mentioned earlier, you guys saw that I mentioned for the UCs at least, right? That you get one app. Where is it? Where's my notes? You get one app for all the colleges, right? It's true. You also get one app for all the private schools. However, keep in mind that you can submit your common app per school in theory, right? So if you want to change it in between, you can. You can change it in between each submission that you do for every college. That's the one unique twist of the Common App itself, okay? But what you do is on the Common App, you add in the colleges that you see, right? Right? On the Common App, you'll add in all of the colleges. There'll be a section just for the colleges. We recommend once you have it, once you added the school, right? Once you add the school, add your major. I said add your major right away because one thing you wouldn't realize is that majors will activate optional or hidden, I'll say hidden essay, I'm putting quotes together too, essay questions, right? Because not though it might show you the general, like everyone's applying this question, but if you, let's say you pick computer science, it may pop up a new question on there. And the trick of the Common App is not every essay question will be under the writing section, right? So what we tell our students to do is you open up every single tab up to see, is there any secret essay that just popped up out of nowhere? Because some of it sometimes is under the academics, sometimes it's under the activities, sometimes under writing too, but sometimes they flip it up on you, right? So if you weren't expecting it, you're not going to prepare for it, which means you have like, oh no, got to cram now to get that last essay in time. So put in your major, because your major will determine any additional questions that might come up. Put in your major, then open up all the tabs, then go through and you'll see some of it will be basic information that school wants to know about you, but the other half is the questions that the school is going to ask you, right? The most important thing that I'm going to address on this call that a lot of students don't do right is the why us essay, right? So this is the prompt. Every school will kind of call it something different, but basically it's asking you, why do you want to go to my school, right? What makes you want to pick this major at my school? A lot of variations to that question, but basically we call it the why us essay. And most students do this wrong. And the reason why they do it wrong is, again, students try to create a draft, and when I read it, I'm like, it's kind of broad. So what you want to do with these why us essays, right? Schools, colleges are looking if you did the research on their school, right? That's the big one. If you told me, school, I love your program because you have great professors, you have a great program. The end, right? How many other colleges have a great program, have great professors? A lot of other ones. So again, it's so generic that it's not unique to them. They were like, oh, this student did not do their research on our program, on us specifically. So here is the kind of the things you guys want to think about. We call this the whiteout test, right? So what is the whiteout test? That's actually two tests. There's a whiteout test, and I'm going to call it the Google Doc title test. Title test, right? These are the two tests that we have. The first one, shout out to Coach Sarah. She taught me the whiteout test. So that's, I think it's hers. I'm calling the second one the Google Doc title test, right? So what is the whiteout test? Let's say a student says, I want to attend, let's pick a school, Stanford, because you have a great computer science program. You are located in the Bay Area. You have great professors, and the student life is amazing. The end. All right. If you submitted that to the College of Stanford saying, well, this is why I want to go here, the first thing I asked you is, cool, the whiteout test, does it pass? What the whiteout test says is, if I take the school's name and white it out, if I white out the school's name, can I, right? Can I stick another college in and still make this make sense? Is the answer. And I'm going to challenge by saying I want to attend UC Berkeley because you have a great computer science program. You are located in the Bay Area. You have great professors. Student life is amazing. Does that sound accurate? And the answer is yes, right? It has a great computer science program. It is in the Bay Area. It has great professors. They're the most Nobel laureates in the world, right? At that one school. And student life is awesome. I think it was awesome, right? So it's that. In theory, that's failed the whiteout test, because if it passed, it had to be so unique to the school, right? That you're like, whoa, it's nothing like, again, no. Even put any school's name, it just wouldn't make sense, because that's the big thing there. Okay. So that's the whiteout test is the first one. The second part, I'm going to call the Google Doc test. What the Google Doc test is, so a lot of our students right now, we're helping edit their essays. So they're submitting their docs to us, their essays to us via Google Docs. We tell students, put your name in the title of, like, this is my UC prompt, my name, or like this Common App prompt, my name, right? So I'm going to call it the Google Doc test, meaning if I go up there and if I change the title of your doc from, let's say, Common App Personal Statement John Doe to Common App Personal Statement Tony Lee, could Tony Lee get away with it? Because some of you guys say, I'm a hard example. Let me say example again too, right? Example, right? The example is I am such a hardworking student. I have never given up in my life, right? I have taken every bio class you can think of, and I want to be a doctor, right? Wow, it's awesome. But if I change it from John Doe to Tony Lee, in theory, Tony Lee can submit this and it's still quote unquote make it's not a great example, but it works for Tony Lee to send this off to the colleges themselves. Right. So that I call it the Google Doc test. Your prompt, your why us prompt needs to be specific to the school so you can pass the whiteout test. And it needs to be unique to you as a person to pass the Google Doc title test, right? A few things we recommend not to do, right? Do not, or avoid, I'm to do not do, to avoid, right? Avoid dropping class names. This is the thing I see in every student's prompt. I'm going to take this class once I get to your school. Realistically, you're not. It's number one. Number two is what if that class, you picked the wrong class, meaning that's a graduate level class and you just don't know how college classes work. So you picked the wrong class, that's going to hurt you even more, right? And again, you guys don't understand what the classes really mean is the biggest too. So again, and how hard is it to identify a class? You Google it, it's 2 clicks. What we tell students for the Why Us essay, how you did research, we recommend, we call it the 7-click method, right? It needs to be like almost 7 clicks into whatever things you try to look for to make it like, oh, that's, you got to do some research to figure that out is the biggest thing. 7-click method, right? But don't do class names. We also don't drop professor names. People say, I'm excited to work with this professor as well too. And then I asked the student, oh, hey, cool. So professors aren't there forever, right? So if the professor out of nowhere moves this year for whatever reason, are you gonna turn down your acceptance to go to that new school that they're going to? Odds are the answer is no. You're not gonna leave your school to get to another school just for that one professor, because again, I'm assuming you guys are not gonna do that. So professors can move, right? So you don't want to do something that's fungible, that can be moved to something else as well too. So don't do that either, right? You want to pick identify things that cannot be moved, right? So for example, let's say this professor works on greenhouses, but the person can move to a different school and work on it, but the greenhouse itself on the school might not move, right? So they're not going to pick up the greenhouse and move it. In theory, yes, but it's really hard to do that, right? So then if you talk about the program itself, this and that, things that cannot be moved, that's something that might be a better use of your time here, okay? And kind of the last kind of quick tip, last Friday, I actually did an interview with 2 of our coaches, Coach Michelle, Coach Sarah. If you guys want that training, let me know as well too. We talked for 90 minutes. It was supposed to be 30 minutes. We went all 90 minutes. They both gone to MIT, right? And a lot of other schools too, but the main 2, they both MIT. And then they talked about kind of their essays and what they shared. And the biggest thing that I've noticed with all of these top schools want to know your character. That's the big thing, right? So again, when it comes to you'll see a lot of these schools, USC and Stanford, they have a lot of short questions like, what book do you read? What do you do for fun? A lot of people take it too seriously. I'm like, hey, I read math or like calculus. Again, maybe if that's what you do, but again, it's a chance for the readers to know who you are as a person, right? So that's going to be the big thing here is like sharing who you are. If you're a funny person, share that. Again, don't go too crazy. It's still a college app, but again, you want to share your personality, inject that into the app itself there. Okay. And with that, that's been your trading for today. Hopefully everyone liked it. I see a few questions in the chat. We'll go ahead and do that. But really quick, real fast, was that useful? Drop a yes in the chat if that was a good trading. You guys liked that? It was good. You guys found some value, some use in that as well. Beautiful. One thing I'll share with you guys, something we're doing this week for those who are interested. We are doing we work with students inside our coaching program. They get access to our team to ask questions, get feedback. But what about everyone else, right? So this week we're opening up calendars for new families who have not yet been in our program and you're curious, right? So what we're offering is a free 15-minute coaching call. It's not a sales call. You can't actually buy anything on that call. Jump on a quick chat, talk to our team. They're going to do a kind of diagnosis of where you guys are at and give you guys some 2 or 3 action steps for you guys to do. And that's pretty much it on that call. No sales calls unless you want to. Then you can talk to them. Hey, can I talk about getting started with one of our programs? Then they'll set up a second call later on for that. But then again, if you guys are interested, we have a few spots left. You can definitely book it here. For those kept for notes. Every time I give you guys notes, no one ever actually reads it or uses it. So if you guys are here, we do these trainings pretty consistent now, I think on a daily basis. If you guys come the first 5 minutes, I give you guys my notes. If you come after that, wait till the replay. For those who registered for this event, it's going to automatically email you the notes and the replay. So those who registered, do that. If you haven't registered and somehow you found this link, slide in my DMs. I'll get you guys the replay, the notes and the replay after that. Okay, let's go ahead and jump on the chat. One of the questions here: will we have notes as well too? The answer is with the replay. Should be done within 48 hours. So hang on tight. If you're watching this in the future, it might be done already. So you're good to go there. You mentioned, next person said, you said avoid clutching class names. The reviewer of the essay said to specify names unique class. Professor named teachers. Revise the essay to say interest. The professor's names is okay. Again, everyone has their own kind of viewpoints on this process, right? If someone tells you do it, go for it. For me, I tell students stay away from it if you can, because how hard is it to look up, right? So if I was a school and I had 50,000 people applying to our school, and then all I saw was, I want to take this class, I want to take this class, I want to take this class. How hard is it to look up a schedule, right? Versus what if I know something unique about the school that's not really advertised? Little pro tip for you guys. How do you find that information out? The best way is talking to students. How do I talk to students, Coach Tony? Right? You can go ahead and go to linkedin.com, look up the school's name, look at their alumni, send them a message like, hey, I'm interested in going to your school. Can you talk to me? And just ask them, hey, why'd you pick this school over all the other schools? They'll tell you why. I'm like, why'd you stay? Why'd you graduate? All this stuff. And they'll tell you those reasons why. Another big one, TikTok, social media, YouTube. People are talking. This is why I picked this school. This is why I love this school. This is why I hate this school, right? There's specific things that you can answer about that. So again, everyone has their preference. We as a company just don't recommend this as a first resort. Again, can you do this? Can you do this? Sure, right? But again, if there's another way to share that you're interested in a school, I would recommend that's probably the better option for you there. Okay. I identify things that cannot be moved. A program at the school usually cannot be moved. Moved a certain physical thing at a school. The example I gave earlier was a greenhouse, right? The greenhouse student was interested in like environmental sciences and that as well too. They've done some greenhouse stuff. They know the school is really big in greenhouses. They're like, hey, boop, boop, boop. Can I do that as well too? Something specific there. Can I receive the notes? I arrived late. So back to the first answer. We drop them first 5 minutes. If you come after 5 minutes, feel free to access the replay. You get access to that there. Common App helps us apply to out-of-state colleges. Yes, right? So there's 1,000 schools, over 1,000 colleges that use this app as their main app or as one of the options, right? So if all your schools take the Common App, go for that one is what I recommend as well too. How do you show demonstrated interest? Again, okay, give me a random analogy. How does a boy show he likes a girl? How, vice versa. Girl likes a boy, girl likes girl, boy likes boy, whatever you want to use, right? So how do you show interest in that? Think about that, right? Hey, you say hi first, right? You initiate contact with the individual, for you guys, the school, right? Contact the school, do stuff to show the school that you are interested. That being said, if you've been following us for a long time, we don't really push this a lot because most schools don't care. They care to a certain level, but some schools, like for example, the UCs have so many people. This is not even on their look list of like things to important. This does factor in the smaller one though, right? In the smaller schools, it does play a bigger role. So we've noticed that if you go to a smaller school, smaller campus, this one does play a bigger role. This plays a bigger role in smaller schools. But if you're applying to a big school, it might not make the biggest impact for you there. Okay. Cool. That is pretty much it for time. I have have another call right now. But in the chat, if you guys want to go ahead and book a free 15-minute coaching call with our team, the link's right there. It's going to close in 10 seconds. So definitely click it now before you go. Book there, talk to our team. They'll give you feedback. They're not going to sell you anything on that call. So yeah, go ahead and jump there. If you guys are interested, tune into one of our future trainings. And then excited to see you guys soon.